progression of bhakti is basically the development of faith. So sort of an inherent tension between doubt and faith and knowledge, and how sometimes it seems like they are um, they're disconnected from each other, right? And especially when we read even the Bhagavad-Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, doubts are considered to be like demons, and in one of Krishna's names as Madhusudana, one who kills the demon of doubt. And so that's one sort of way that we look at doubts. But then on the other hand, do doubts really have a place in our spiritual development? And it seems like there might be, and so we'll try to address that and go deeper into it. I think as we were working through this topic, we were just feeling that it's something that really allows us to be authentic in our practice, to really see ourselves and our struggles. And in fact, the very first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita starts out with Arjuna's doubts, and it continues on. The Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many sections where a devotee brings out his doubt, and then it is being addressed by a devotee or by Krishna. So it's something that is continuous, and one could even say that the first chapter is the yoga of doubt, right? And so we'll go into that. So first we'll read the verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and then we will get into our presentation.
So today we are going to read from verse 18 onwards, because 2-3 days ago we finished the discussion on karma. Speaker view. So we'll start with text 18 onwards. This is just to provide a context. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So now going forward, Krishna is going to describe that premature renunciation is not good, because if you have premature renunciation, then although you may be renounced, but your mind is fixed, is thinking of sense enjoyment. So that's why Krishna clarifies this here for Arjuna. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So Arjuna was concerned about the reactions from the fighting. So Krishna is describing, in the next few verses, basically describes a person who is practicing a karma and his symptoms.
Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings, and thus there is inaction in his action. Right?
And this describes the beginner practitioner of a karma, and the next few verses will describe the advanced practitioner of a karma.
Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions.
So this describes an advanced practitioner. He is only working for the bare necessities of life, and he has no proprietorship. And Krishna again reassures Arjuna that if you work in this consciousness, then you won't be affected by sinful reactions. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions. So this describes even a more advanced person, that he doesn't even, he's just satisfied with the gains that come of its own accord. He doesn't even beg, basically. And there's a story of this great devotee Madhavendra Puri, who would just sit under a tree, and whenever some people would give him some alms, then he would eat, otherwise he would just stay hungry for the day. So this is a very advanced stage, but devotees can reach that.
The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence.
So now Krishna is going to introduce this concept of transcendental knowledge, and the concept of yajna actually. He introduces the yajna acharatah karma samagram praviliyate. So this, how the spirit of working in this way is actually meant for yajna, which is another name for Krishna, which means for the satisfaction of Krishna.
This next verse is actually a very beautiful verse, and it's also a very famous verse from the Bhagavad-Gita, so we could perhaps recite it.
And read the purport maybe.
Maybe, yeah, that would be nice.
And all of you can join if you like. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havi Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Let me open the purport.
You can just click on the text itself and it'll...
No. Okay.
Should. Yeah, it should.
I have to come back. Yeah. Go ahead.
How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verse. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. So I'm just going to skip that. I think we've... this process is generally known as yajna, or activities simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahma means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyotir, his spiritual effulgence. The Lord is, everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyotir. But when the Jyotir is covered by illusion or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. So I'll read that sentence again. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna, or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness.
So it's not an artificial way of imagining oneself to be Brahman, but a very practical and easy way to make everything Brahman. So now going forward, Krishna is going to describe the different kinds of yajnas, or offerings or sacrifices, that lead to transcendental knowledge. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So here Krishna is describing one method, that some people worship the different demigods. If they worship them in the proper conception, then gradually they will make advancement in transcendental knowledge.
Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, which means celibate students, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses.
So here Krishna is describing how the different varnas and ashramas, the different people in different ashramas, they can attain...
Ashramas means different orders.
Status of life, how they can attain transcendental knowledge. So a brahmachari or a renunciate celibate, they practice perfect sense control by not engaging in any kind of sex, and they study Brahman and dedicate their life to the service of Brahman. So for them, they sacrifice their senses in the fire of mental control. And for a householder who is in the Grihastha ashram, they also perform the sacrifice by not engaging in unnecessary enjoyment of the senses.
Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind.
So this kind of describes the Ashtanga yogis. They control their life breath and the senses and focus it on the super soul.
Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
So again, a broad description of how different people, according to their tendency, nature, status of life, they can all engage in some kind of yajna and therefore make advancement.
Yes, Delia. Householders are married people.
And this verse again describes the Ashtanga yogis. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
So just all kinds of different sacrifices and different processes, right, that can help a person get to the point of transcendental knowledge.
Yeah.
So all these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere.
So here Krishna is now going to summarize that one of the benefit of performing these sacrifices is becoming cleansed of sinful reactions. So again, addressing Arjuna's concern about sinful reactions, again and again Krishna is mentioning that by sacrifices and transcendental knowledge he can become free from sinful reactions. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So it's an important point that happiness, connecting happiness to sacrificing for the Supreme, because we may attain so many things in our lives, material lives, they may provide sense enjoyment, but they're not capable of providing happiness. And real happiness actually comes from understanding this connection between sacrifice.
And the whole idea is preemptive giving, because everything that we have that has been given to us by this material energy is actually ultimately going to perish. And so sacrifice is essentially recognizing that A, doesn't belong to me, 2, it's going to be taken away from me anyways. So to make the best use of the bad bargain is to actually offer it back to the source, and in that way one gets purified. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
So here is connecting, he's saying karma jan vidhitan sarvan. So one doesn't have to like go outside of their prescribed duties or work. One can use their work to offer these kind of sacrifices. So it kind of makes it practical, because if you have to give up your work and perform sacrifices, then how many people will do it?
Actually, the activity that we are doing every day at 7:30, all the way till 8:30, is actually what is meant by this is that we are offering our hearing, we are sacrificing our hearing, right? And mental control, and you know, so all of that is actually a kind of sacrifice that has the power to purify us. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifice of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
So again, making the connection, saying that one should perform sacrifice in knowledge rather than just blindly doing it. And then also, if the sacrifices are performed properly, then they will result in transcendental knowledge.
And now the remaining of this section is actually about knowledge and doubt and the importance of transcendental knowledge. So that's going to be what we're going to present. And this is how this chapter ends, by talking about knowledge.
And actually the whole theme of this chapter is transcendental knowledge. So the karma vikarma, that was also actually meant to help us understand that it leads to transcendental knowledge, and so are the sacrifices. And here the next verse actually, so it may seem like, oh, these different difficult sacrifices, I'm not able to do them, and I'm not properly situated in my varna and ashrama, so how do I get to this transcendental knowledge? So Krishna is saying that you can skip all that, and I'm going to tell you now a very direct process of attaining transcendental knowledge. This is a very famous verse. It's called the Guru verse, so maybe we can recite it. Vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshayanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So we'll cover this guru aspect tomorrow, but it's introducing. And going forward, Krishna is going to describe the benefits of this attaining this transcendental knowledge.
Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never again fall into such illusion, for by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine.
So,
yes, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so this is a very important aspect of how to see this world and how to see everybody. And Krishna is saying by this transcendental knowledge, you will see that everybody actually is part of me. And I'm in everybody. So that way one can establish a real relationship with everybody on a superior platform, spiritual platform, that I am Krishna's and Krishna's is mine. Everybody is Krishna's and Krishna is ours.
Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries.
So this addresses the second benefit of transcendental knowledge, that it removes you can go beyond your sins, and no matter who you are, here the word that is used, api cheta asipapebhya. So api cheta basically means you can think of any possible scenarios of a sinner. He could be the most sinful person, or he has knowledge but then he's again acting sinfully. Any combinations, but regardless of that, if the person can develop transcendental knowledge, it will take him beyond the ocean of sinful activities.
As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities.
So this is the third benefit, that it burns to ashes all the previous karma, the karmic reactions, except the prarabdha karma, which is our material body in our current situation. All the prarabdha and kuta bija, it can burn.
In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time.
So again, kalena, the word that is used, kalena atmani vindati, just to make sure that it's not like a quick fix process. It takes time, so one should not try to artificially pose oneself as having transcendental knowledge. It just takes time. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So the word that is introduced here is Shraddhavan. Shraddha means faith, and then the so with faith and controlling the senses, if one engages in transcendental knowledge, is very quickly attain the supreme spiritual peace.
But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. And so we're going to talk about doubt and, what to do with doubts, really. And
Krishna introduces three kinds of people here. Agya, which means a fool. Ashraddhana, a person who has maybe knowledge but does not have that much faith. And Sanshayatma, which means a doubting person who may have some faith but he's not sure, he's always doubting.
One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand up and fight. So again, the idea of doubts and how to slash those doubts by transcendental knowledge. It's the same, Delia. Devotional service to Krishna and to the Guru there's no difference, because even when we are performing service to the Guru, that is actually, as we discussed, it's a chain, and so the Guru does not accept the service for himself, but he accepts it on behalf of Krishna. And so we'll dedicate this section to knowledge and doubt. So this is something that we all struggle with. Doubt is where we all begin. And it would also be quite honest to say that it is something that, it's like our doubt and faith, they're always in dialogue with each other throughout our entire spiritual journey. And so we are going to start with a little clip from Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia, and where, Lucy has just seen another world. She comes and she shares that, and there's a lot of disbelief. And so this is the professor who's addressing that doubt. So. You can skip all that. Okay.
You children are one shenanigan shy. What did you say?
In the upstairs wardrobe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
She thinks she's found a magical land. In the upstairs wardrobe.
What did you say?
The wardrobe upstairs. Lucy thinks she's found a forest inside.
She won't stop going on about it.
What was it like?
Like talking to a lunatic.
No, not her, the forest.
You're not saying you believe her?
You don't?
But of course not. I mean, logically, it's impossible.
What do they teach in schools these days?
Edmund said they were only pretending.
And he's usually the more truthful one, is he?
No. This would be the first time.
If she's not mad and she's not lying, then logically, we must assume she's telling the truth.
You're saying that we should just believe her?
She's your sister, isn't she? You're a family. You might just try acting like one.
So again, they have experienced this wondrous land, and based on their logic, their mind, they are not able to accept that something like that might exist. And this is a conundrum for the limitation of our senses and mind. When something is revealed beyond that, then the mind and senses don't want to accept it.
So this is one end of the spectrum, right, where the professor is telling them that why don't you accept? And then on the other end of the spectrum is our standard way in which we get knowledge, which is spoken by this person, Richard Feynman, right?
Great physicist.
Yeah, great physicist who quotes that it is imperative in society to doubt. It is absolutely necessary for progress in science to have uncertainty as a fundamental part of your inner nature. To make progress in understanding, we must remain modest and allow that we do not know. So we have this sort of tension between, should I just implicitly believe, which is what the professor seems to indicate, and on the other hand is this idea that in order to know anything, we have to actually doubt. And so where do we stand, and what do we do with this?
And I guess he's bringing out the connection between not just being uncertain, but having doubt at the same time being modest.
So
And these are a couple of other great thinkers. He says that Frederick Buechner, he says that if you don't have doubts, you are either kidding yourself or asleep. Doubts are like ants in the pants of the faith. They keep it alive and kicking and running. Let's see what it says. Alive and moving.
And this is a Zen master who says doubt is essential to enlightenment. Great doubt, great awakening. Small doubt, small awakening. No doubt, no awakening. So it seems like there is a place for doubt, or so it seems. And
both in the science, in the field of science, as well as in the field of spiritual search.
Yeah, in the field of spiritual search. And we can see that, the Bhagavad-Gita starts with Arjuna's great doubt. And, whenever people ask these questions, it's kind of like an existential crisis. And sometimes we just don't know what to do with them. And when we take them around, if we take them around in the secular world, we are basically told that, why are you thinking about these kind of subject matter? Just move on with your normal life. And sometimes if we take them to people of faith, then we are told that, to doubt is actually to, it is something that is an offense, and that we should just forget about it, right? So we really don't know, we don't really have a process of what to do with them. And so, so the Bhagavatam, interestingly, is a text which is, at least 5,000 years old and penned down by Vedavyas. It talks about in this verse, this is 3rd canto, 26th verse, 26th chapter, 30th verse. It points out that doubt is the distinct characteristic of intelligence.
Doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep, even sleep, as determined by their different functions, are said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. So we can all start sleeping more to get more intelligence.
So we can see that doubt is actually the first, shamshaya, right? So it is an aspect of intelligence, and we cannot really, do away with it. But then, is there a certain kind of doubt that is beneficial, or are all doubts the same?
Because why is Krishna saying in the end of the 4th chapter that by transcendental knowledge destroy all doubts? He's talking about destroying doubts. He's not talking about. So it looks like there is another aspect of doubts that we don't understand. If doubts are good for any kind of material progress, if they are good for spiritual progress, then why is Krishna talking about destroying doubts?
Yeah, sometimes we have a tendency to put all of it in the same bucket. It's just like what we do with faith. I mean, we're going to watch Richard Dawkins, and it's like we take faith and we put it in the same bucket. And it can be faith, it can be blind faith. Same way, it can be doubt or it can be blind doubt, right? So we have to know what is the way to. So here is a very interesting difference. So the word skepticism comes from the word skepter, which in Latin means to hold, to touch, or examine. So that's one way, right, to look at something closely. The word cynic, on the other hand, which is also, it comes from a Latin word, it means dogged, dog-like, in denial.
Dog-like in denial.
Doubting, scoffing, so that's a cynic, right? So right there we can see that maybe there are
two different kinds of doubt.
And one means that we are willing to examine something more closely, right, and look at it, and the other is dismissive. So interestingly, we hear how Richard Dawkins, he seems to be appearing more and more in our sessions, but he talks about how faith is something.
Physics, it could, as meaning belief in something for which there is no evidence. There are various senses of faith in which scientists do participate. Those branches of science which I don't understand, for example, physics, it could be said, I suppose, that I have faith that physicists understand it better than I do. And so when I say something that physicists tell me, such as that there was nothing before the Big Bang, you're not allowed to talk about the word before in the context of the Big Bang, I sort of have faith that physicists understand enough to be allowed to say that, even though I don't understand why they're allowed to say that. But it's not faith, it's not blind faith, it's not faith in the absence of evidence. It's faith that's based upon confidence in the scientific method, in the scientific peer review process, the fact that I know that there are other physicists who can test, verify, criticize the views of any one physicist. So it's not the same as religious faith, which is based upon no evidence at all.
So
well, it's certainly true.
It seems like can you stop that? It seems like sometimes faith has just become a sort of like a bad word, like a dirty word,
or just religious,
or just something that we believe in without any evidence, right? So again, it's important for us to unpack these words. Just like doubt can sometimes be a bad word in a religious circle and can be almost seen as blasphemy. In the same way, sometimes the word faith can be seen as a bad word in scientific circle and can be almost seen as something that is sentimental and without any basis. And maybe, both of those words have to be re-examined and looked at a little bit more carefully.
Because they are kind of intrinsic nature of being. Just like doubt is an intrinsic nature or part of intelligence, faith is also an intrinsic nature of who we are. So it's not that in one particular circle or realm doubt is bad or good, and in the other one the faith is good or bad. We have to examine them for what they are.
and maybe reclaim them
reclaim them
with their original meaning. So this is our situation right now, that in modern times, disbelief has so far entered into the essence of our existence that both faithlessness and faith have become fundamentally two varieties of faithlessness. So we see that, even in our spiritual practices or our religious leaders, there is a sense in which, a great certainty which kind of transforms into fanaticism, and people fight on the basis of such fanatical beliefs. And of course, the other is our, sometimes, not always, but sometimes our scientific paradigm, which is infused with, faithlessness.
And that faithlessness is almost like a certainty in disbelief. And that kind of certainty, that my disbelief is actually a proof of that particular thing that I don't want to believe in. And that kind of becomes dangerous. And that's what Nietzsche is saying: convictions are more dangerous enemies of truth than lies.
And it kind of, it closes us, right? It makes us dogmatic. It closes us to any possibility outside of what we believe to be true. And in the process, we actually become losers, because we have just not allowed ourselves to experience a deeper reality, perhaps.
This Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran, he says, doubt is every bit the tool of deception as it is tool of inspection. So it can basically it can be a tool of deception. And then we learned that how the cigarette industry, they use doubt as a tool of deception, basically sowing that doubt that maybe cigarette smoking is not bad for you after all.
There's a quote by the cigarette company where they say that doubt is our product. So even though there was a whole host of evidence against it, but they just kept using doubt as a way to continue. And so here is another one, which says, a doubt is a pain too lonely to know that faith is his twin brother. So sometimes we're so beset with doubt that we just don't realize that there is another side.
But the pain from the doubt can be taken care of by faith.
And we just stay in that lonely zone, not knowing what to do with it. So we just wanted to sort of kind of lay it out, so to speak, in a more graphic way, how the same doubt, one form of doubt, can become a form of yoga and can lead us to transcendental knowledge. And the same doubt, so it's like the famous poem by Robert Frost, right, where he says, I took the road less traveled, right? So there's a fork, and one can go this way or one can go the other way. And so if one takes doubt and becomes cynical, right? So we saw the word cynicism, which comes from a Latin word, means being dogmatic, right? Dogged, dismissive, scoffing, like not possible.
Doggedly disbelieving in certain, taking uncertainty as the certainty. And always being cynical, always being in indecision. Maybe this, or maybe that, or how do I really believe anything?
Or nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And even if the evidence is there, but still maybe the evidence is not correct. So it kind of results into a standstill practice. And
that's a good one, Jindra. I was actually thinking about that myself, that why would the word dogged be used here?
That would be a good research to find out. Dogged. So that leads to like a
let's go ahead.
That leads to like an endless thought loops. The mind just goes into this thought loop of doubt, and as a result it's not willing to accept anything as true. And ultimately, basically, Krishna says that it runs into a wall of self-doubt about everything.
It's paralyzing. And Krishna says that for a person who's continuously in that endless loop of doubt, there is no happiness in this world, nor is there any happiness in the other. And we see that our life cannot actually continue without having a modicum of faith. Every time we step out of the house, every time we stop at a stop sign, everything we do actually has, it requires some level of faith for us to wake up in the morning and get out of the bed, right? So this is one way to one direction in which our doubts can take us. But the same doubt,
basically a path where we stop examining ourselves, a path where we are not taking any positive action to improve ourselves or contribute to the world, or help others. And then that's the doubt that Krishna is talking about, giving up our duties out of doubt. That's the kind of doubt Krishna is saying that transcendental knowledge can destroy those kind of doubts.
Yeah. And then the other kind of doubt, the same doubt, if it is, approached from a place of curiosity and inquiry.
Even our like Vedanta Sutra, they start with Athato Brahma Jigyasa, that now that we have a human birth, we should inquire about the nature of the Absolute. We should inquire about who we are. So that inquiry is like the foundation of any spiritual practice. And we see how Arjuna and Parikshit, in their conversations, they're continuously inquiring and with doubts. And they're presenting the doubts, but also submitting to Krishna that, hey, you can destroy those doubts.
In fact, there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis, the cowherd maidens, they're considered to be the topmost devotees. And there is a pastime story where Krishna plays the flute and they come to Krishna in the middle of the night, and then Krishna just disappears. And so they go mad, in that love, and they keep looking for Krishna. And finally, when Krishna reappears in front of them, then they present their doubts to Krishna. And they say, Krishna, what kind of a lover are you? Are you really a person who reciprocates? Like, we gave up everything and we came to you and you just abandoned us in the middle of the night in this deep, dark forest. And then Krishna explains, and so the point is
but
that...
the path they take when Krishna disappears and when they become so doubtful, and that is where the real humility lies. They take the path of humility, and they take the path of like glorifying Krishna's wondrous activities, and they actually turn that doubt into a moment of great surrender, rather than just kind of doubting Krishna and then say, okay, we are going home. They apply that doubt and they use that doubt for their and when they apply the doubt in that way, Krishna actually becomes like completely floored by their humility and their love, that wow, I can't really offer anything to you other than your own glorious deeds.
Yeah, so it's sort of like being able to, that's the meaning of fearlessness, right? Where we don't really maybe see the complete road, but we are willing to take a risk, right? There is that little risk that we take, but that's the risk of love. And of course, the other point there that we have to consider is that our faith also has to be reasoned faith. So we'll talk more about that in subsequent discussions. But anyway, so this curiosity and this inquiry, we kind of went ahead of ourselves there. But this curiosity and inquiry is at least a little opening within the heart, that I'm ready to look at it a little bit more closely. And then apply it and then see, because all of this knowledge has to be, Krishna speaks about that it is actually by direct self-perception. So it has to be applied and then examined. The examining is not just at an intellectual level. The examining is actually at the level of actually testing it out for oneself. And then, because many times, where is this doubt going to take us? Because sometimes this doubt can become sort of like, I'm absolutely certain, and I can become very fanatical. But we see in the lives of the great devotees that they become filled with wonder. And that wonder essentially transforms into deep humility, where the more they know, the more they feel like they don't know. And, right?
Yeah, so as we can see, one path leading from doubt can lead us to complete ignorance and being completely immersed in this material realm, basically. And Krishna says, Sanshayatma Vinashyati, that a person basically kind of goes on the path of self-destruction because he's going deeper and deeper into darkness with that doubt. And the other way doubt can take us is complete freedom, complete liberation, transcendental knowledge.
And we can, it's interesting, I was just thinking about it, that humility is supposed to be the womb of knowledge. And so this doubt, if it is applied in this way, can actually lead us to a place of humility, which can then take us to transcendental knowledge.
Maybe we can stop here and then the rest tomorrow.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to see what else do we
Yeah,
have. We have plenty.
Yeah. So let's do that tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So look, Dasha's saying that we should do this tomorrow because stop share. Okay. So we've done a lot of, let's see. Please go ahead and write your comments. If you want to talk today, you can also discuss. Doubt is the first step to accepting there may be something beyond what you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good kind of doubt. It comes with a presupposition that, there's something beyond I know.
Yeah. And what we think we know scratches the surface of possibility. Yeah, and that's kind of what the great transcendentalist. The more they know, they realize that there is so much more to know, and in the end, they realize that there is no way that they can know know the absolute truth in its completeness, and so they never become jaded or sort of like, I know everything, and I don't need to know anything, right? That would be the end of wonder, and it would be the end for sure of bhakti as well.
And that's what Dalia is saying. The skeptic examines and the cynic rejects.
Yeah.
So that's. And I was thinking about this term dogged, and I think one thing that came to my mind is dogs are they're considered the most faithful and the best friends. So they are like dogged in their faithfulness and friendship. You cannot, no matter what you do to a dog, he will never turn against you.
Is faithlessness an attribute of the Kali Yuga? Yeah, it is more and more, as we can see, whether it is our educational system or wherever we look around, it's become the new dogma, skepticism, faithlessness, it's just, whether it's the study of any subject matter, it's rooted in this idea of skepticism. And as a result, I was just hearing a lecture that how everything in our modern world has been stripped away of anything that is, out of the normal, rational, logical. And there's nothing wrong with logic and rationality, but it can only take us so far, and so it's kind of it leaves us feeling empty within the heart. So it's definitely an attribute of Kali Yuga.
I think your point, Deidre, about indecision equals inactivity, passive doubt. Yes.
Can you read the whole thing? That certainty is begging
to be proven wrong, like a logical fallacy, even though this is beyond logic.
Yeah, very nice.
Indecision equals inactivity and passive doubt. Yeah, I mean, indecision, inactivity, those are not the nature of the soul. The soul is always very active. The soul is very active in love. The soul is very active in service. So when indecision and inactivity kind of comes over, it's kind of the mode of ignorance, kind of the symptom of ignorance is inactivity, indecision, procrastination. All those qualities are coming from ignorance.
When is it appropriate for doubt to turn into confidence in spiritual life? It's we'll talk about this tomorrow when we talk about guru, and the doubts are going to stay with us. It's going to be there, but it's what we do with those doubts. And so we when even though we have doubts within our heart, and we think, oh, but I don't understand this part. And
doubts, actually, when we start looking at doubts as our friends, that this doubt is going to take me closer to Krishna. This doubt is giving me an opportunity to examine Krishna or reach out to him through my prayer, through my service, through my thinking about it, meditating on it, right? And that really allows that connection to form deeper and deeper. I was also thinking that when doubt is planted within the seed of humility and faith, right? That's when, because I was thinking about my own life, that there's so many points in my own personal journey where I think, okay, Krishna, how does this work, and how do I really understand this? And then I find that if I just stay with that and I keep praying and I keep calling out and I keep going through the process, then one day suddenly there is an opening, and then I understand. It's like, oh, so you go through that a number of times, then you realize that everything that I think I know may not be necessarily true. And everything that I think I don't understand or I don't believe may actually turn out to be a door that is simply closed for me. And then when the door opens, then I see a new reality. So it's a matter of just being rooted in that humble place that I don't know everything. Yeah, and then letting the magic of faith unfold that which we don't know yet, and also being excited about finding out what we don't know. So I don't know, and we don't stop at that or get depressed or I don't know, but rather being excited. Oh, well, what's behind this closed door? What's behind this closed door of this doubt? Yeah, and I'm really waiting to find that out. Hope that helps, Delia. Yeah. Can you please elaborate on phase of application? Service means, if possible, with an example. Yeah, application means like when we inquire about something, right? That's the positive side, that we inquire, we are curious about who we are, like I'm a spirit. So like Arjuna, for example, he's doubtful about this whole fighting in this whole battlefield, right? This whole battle, and he's throwing one doubt after another at Krishna. And then Krishna is explaining to him this whole concept of karma, karma, vikarma, that how you work for my satisfaction, brahmani adhaya karmani, giving up all attachment. So now this is a piece of knowledge that he has received. Now Arjuna again has two options. He can reject that and say, oh, how do I know this will work for me? How do I know that my sinful reactions will be removed? How do I know anything? He can take that path, or he can take, yeah, Krishna, you're telling this, and let me try this and apply this, and then let me do exactly what you're saying, and then I will have a more practical or self-realized evidence in my own experience. So that is application.
And I was also thinking that I think it's Edison, right, who said that I know at least 99 ways that it doesn't work, right? So I was thinking that, you know, there was a time in our life when we were testing, we wanted to make vegan donuts, and then we also wanted to make vegan eclairs. And so we were working on the recipe, and so every time we would go on the internet and we would find this one tiny little tip that if you use this little thing, then suddenly, you know, it's going to, you know, be even better. And so we had two choices at every point: look at our product and say, hey, we found our perfection, we don't care, or say that, right, it's going to work with that little tip there. Just put a pot of water and let the steam come, and that'll make it, you know, expand more. So we always had two options. Now if we really had a desire to make our donuts and our eclairs better and better, then hey, what's the loss? At most, you know, that steam is not going to do much. But you know, we tried it and now we know, right? And so this is actually what we did through the whole process. Every day we would find a new thing, try it out, and it was exciting.
So doubt or inquiry, it has to go hand in hand with some application, because inquiry, you get some answers or some knowledge, which is theoretical knowledge, and unless you apply it and do some service, that's what Krishna is saying, pariprashnena sevaya. So that's going to come next, but some service is necessary, especially for transcendental knowledge. Some service to the Supreme is necessary, or that consciousness of sacrifice and offering, that I'm doing this for the Supreme. And when you do that, then you'll see how that magically, the doubt actually transforms into an asset for you, some strength.
Yeah, right. Because if you were just reading it, right, and it's like looking at the ingredients or thinking, then there is no way we can decide one way or the other. It was when we applied that and put it in that recipe, added that little extra something to our flour mix or whatever, that's when we were actually able to test whether this was working or not. So
in order to apply and service, that means automatically means that we have some humility. We are exhibiting some humility and saying that, yeah, I don't fully know, and I'm willing to try this out.
Actually, in Sanskrit, there are two terms. There's jnana and there is vijnana. So jnana is simply theoretical knowledge, and vijnana is when you actually apply it and then test it out for yourself. So that's the application. Hope that helps, Kirti. Deidre, I feel like people choose ignorance because to doubt, question, and seek takes energy and perseverance. Very, very true. It's very true. It's, I'm sorry. I think we just... what guru qualifies as a self-realized soul? Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Doubt plus humility plus faith plus patience. Very nice. Very nice. Yes. Patience is the key. I think I was hearing this from Bhakti Lata, actually. She shared this, that sometimes when they make butter, it takes a long, long time. You know, you're like going, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this churning rod, it's in a pot, and you just keep going and you keep thinking, oh, nothing is happening. And just at the time when you think, oh, nothing is happening, I'm just going to toss this whole thing out. You know, it's like you're right on the, you know, on the edge of getting the butter out. So patience is really required.
They're all interconnected, actually. Humility, faith, patience.
I agree with you, Deidre. That Sanju, those were great notes.
It's not going down anymore.
Why is it not? Okay. There it is. I don't know is a great possibility of knowing more. I know everything means I'm closing the door of knowing.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, Deidre. It takes humility to admit to not knowing instead of dismissing. Ashley, it's very interesting, Ashley and Darren, it's very interesting that right now we all live with the virus that is prevalent and has created much skepticism about what exactly is going on, but also has introduced a space that has allowed more of us to increase our faith in the supernatural and spiritual world and look for the wider view and diversity of life in the presence of the Supreme Creator. And that what we know is like a grain of salt. We've all been humbled. So beautifully put, so beautifully expressed. Daryl and Ashley. It's true, you know. So I don't know if we have some time today because we finished it on time. So I'm just going to put you guys on a gallery view here, and if you guys have any thoughts, anybody who hasn't spoken, maybe Juma,
Amrita.
Anshul, Amrita.
Yeah, actually, I was just typing, my thoughts, and it just
Yeah.
got a little disrupted. I was saying that, some days I do have like a lot of, doubts, with a variety of thoughts, and, I keep telling myself to be, patient through it, keep working on it, and soon the answers will follow. And, I keep telling myself that, you have to keep working on yourself, every single day, and, soon it'll pay off. So patience, I think, is key, but it is exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, you know. And I think what helps is to be in association of other practitioners who are also walking down the same path of faith and doubt, you know, and to know that, you know, we are walking in spite of it, you know, and we're all confronting the same doubts, the same feelings of inadequacy, all of that, you know, it's our journey together, and we encourage each other in this way. And we see others who are walking on the path before us and seeing how they are overcoming, you know, those natural doubts. So I think that helps so much. Yeah, very nice, Amrita. Anybody else? And then we'll have Delia. She wants to share something on the mic. So, but let's see. Eric, did you have anything? Juma.
Well, I can just say that there is this concept of willing suspension of disbelief. And I think that we all experience that when we accept a faith. I think it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone has their own ways of affirming that they're on the right path. But ultimately, and I'm speaking this like an American, it's pragmatic considerations that are very important. That if you feel like you're walking down a path and it's working for you, that you feel that you're changing for the better, then that gives you the strength to keep going on the path. But ultimately, that's where faith comes in. Faith is important all along the process. That I don't think you can really logically prove that one faith is correct and one faith is not correct. It's just what resonates with your soul, basically.
Yeah, and Krishna will speak more about that in the later chapter when he'll talk about faith in the different modes of nature. So, and that's exactly what you're saying, that what resonates, right? It's very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ray?
Zuma.
Just to piggyback on that, I would think, like after what Eric just said, it's kind of like a means but to no end, because it just keeps going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Open-ended.
Thank you. And thank you for your comment. It's very, it adds a lot of positive energy to the Sangha. Yes, it has been energizing for us both also to just think about this. It's very nice.
For me, it's like opening up the layers, like confusion is getting some answers and settling down, and it's a opening up. I mean, I also feel that same way, that we have so much of doubt every day, and it kind of gets answered when you have a doubt. But like you said, that if you have the door is all closed, of course it's not going to open up. But when you have that, yes, I want the door open, for me every day it's like that. Like, if I seek that the door is closed, can you help me open it up?
Thank you.
Open it up.
Yeah, that's the attitude. That's the attitude where one door at a time we can get back to Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah. Shweta, did you have something you wanted to say? Ray, I don't know if she's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to share that like it's not the first time that I'm going through the Bhagavad-Gita, and whenever like it depends on the phase of life you are in, that how much you can understand and grasp out of it. So every time you read and you listen to the verses, you can you think it's something new, like you grasp a little bit out of it every time you read. So that's what I felt. Like,
And that is the wonder of the
like
book.
it's like an ocean actually. So person grasps according to his state of mind. Like
It's very
yeah.
true. We feel the same way, like, so many years later, when we open the Bhagavad Gita, we're like, did we ever read this before? Like, how did we go through this,
Even today, when we were making these slides, then we had that same experience. This seems
Yes, Delia, go ahead. We are waiting to hear from you.
There's something that I shared on the Facebook group and sorry, the WhatsApp group. Yeah. And Prabhuji said maybe I could share it here.
Yeah.
So about the McDonald's example from yesterday when we were talking about karma, and I wrote that if it's in my karma to lose $50 and it's in your karma to receive $50, then maybe I drop the $50 on the ground and you find it. It might look like my karma is affecting your karma or your karma is affecting my karma, but really we each had our own individual karma, which happened to be harmonious or compatible in that situation. But I think if for whatever reason, I'm not there to drop the $50, there will be another way in which I lose that $50 and in which you find that $50, which is still compatible with the karma of everybody involved.
Very nice. Thank you.
That was a very good thought experiment. Yeah, I really like that.
That's very nice. I think Sid is missing today, so he had that question, so we can share it with him again when he comes.
Before I forget, by the way, the chart that we showed about doubt, like the 2 paths of doubt, that was given by Lord Buddha. I forgot to mention it on the slide, so that was really nice to find that.
It's very interesting. We both have had information sent to us about the current circumstances in the world and our own past lives, and not always believing what we saw. It would later be verified either as an event, or we would find information that would verify what we saw 5 times over. And each and every time it got easier to accept the information. Very nice. Yes, Ashley, it does get. Yes, Anshul, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Mataji.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about the doubt, so yesterday I was in deep doubt, as I mentioned in the comments as well. But if I look back in past 3 days, every time I was reading something, I was listening to anything, I was looking for that answer. I was not looking for those answers before. I was not reading the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gita with that concentration to look for that answer. So that doubt was actually pushing me to get that answer. And anyway, right? So as you said, it kind of resonates with me that doubt with attitude, your patience, your perseverance will keep you up to your toes and helps you to make progress, be it spiritual, be it personal, be it professional, anything, right? So
yeah,
realizing doubt, how good it is.
It is. I mean, both of us, we've been doing this for now 25 years now. Next year it's going to be our 25th year. And I couldn't imagine, like, at this point, if we felt like we know it all, we've seen it, we've, right, yeah, I've seen it, I've heard it, like, it's, it would lose its wonder, right? It's the fact, and I think Delia mentioned it too, that the more we know, the more questions it seems like we have. And Vaisheshika Prabhu, who's wonderful, and you guys will get to meet him one of these days, he always says that a good reading means that you come away with more questions than answers. So I think that's what keeps our spiritual journey so exciting.
Yeah,
but
because Krishna is unlimited, so we'll have unlimited opportunities of inquiring about him or doubting things that we don't know.
I guess when the scriptures talk about giving up doubt, it means a kind of doubt that paralyzes us.
Yeah, giving up
that gets in the way. Yeah. So
Sindhu and Raghu, if you like to make any reflection or comment.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be our anniversary tomorrow. Actually, our spiritual life anniversary and our marriage anniversary, it's the same.
Next year.
Next year, it's the same.
All right, so
thank you.
Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll finish the. Delia,
I had one last comment about doubt. That for me, I found that I experience like waves of doubt and confidence that come together. So first I'll have doubt about something, which will be the seed of inquiry, something to learn or to examine. And then as I learn, grow, experience, evolve, then I get confidence in that particular topic. But then that confidence, it kind of leads me to the next level of doubt, to the next question, but it feels like another level, like you're like peeling away the layers of the onion, trying to find the onion, and just finding more onion.
It's true. It's so true. Yes, it's so true. Yes, and that's exactly what spiritual life is. It just it goes on and on and on. And it's very interesting that Radharani, who's like the topmost, she's the spiritual energy. She says, I don't even have an iota of devotion. So, I don't understand. And that's the mood of a spiritual practitioner. Not that I know everything and, right?
Yeah.
God's gift to the world and so on and so forth. That's, yeah. Well, thank you. You guys are already congratulating us. It's a few months away. It's in January, but yeah, we'll take it. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, series of doubt moving into knowledge. So, Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.